Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. Amendments to the Administration of Justice Bill continue to be debated in the upper house. The Grenadian Prime Minister is of the view that the Caribbean region stands to benefit from increased development and economic gains with new advances in technology. And primary school children to benefit from a pilot program dubbed Techno Kids. Imagine the Future 2014, courtesy the Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training. Thank you for joining us. Trinidad and Tobago must make laws relevant to our society. The call comes from Attorney General Senator the Honourable Anand Ramlogan as debate continues in the upper house on the amendment to the Administration of Justice Bill.
Senator the Honourable Anand Ramlogan is highlighting the need for lawmakers in Trinidad and Tobago to make laws which suit our social situation. Speaking during debate on the Administration of Justice Bill in Tuesday's Senate sitting, the Attorney General urges lawmakers to consider the conditions facing the nation before comparisons are drawn to the laws of other countries. He explains that Trinidad and Tobago's location in itself is something that makes the challenges faced by national security quite unique.
Trinidad and Tobago has been cultivating its own human rights jurisprudence that is rooted in our own social conditions here. And we have a crime situation that first world countries that pass those judgments and legislation do not have. The geopolitical positioning of Trinidad and Tobago makes it a major transshipment point for the illegal drug and arms trade. We have problems that are unique and peculiar to Trinidad and Tobago. As the most southerly of all the Caribbean islands, with our closest next door neighbor being Venezuela, we have unique problems that we must pass laws for based on our problems, our challenges, and our experience.
The amended Administration of Justice Bill will see DNA samples from criminals kept on file for 20 years. Addressing concerns surrounding the time frame for the retention of the DNA, the Attorney General says the laws proposed for Trinidad and Tobago are actually unique to the country's situation. He says, additionally, if one must compare it to the laws of that of other countries, ours are quite reasonable.
Australia's Department of Immigration and Border Protection, they keep biometric data for 80 years. 80. In other words, you could born and dead, but they want to keep it. They're not letting go of it. 80 years. In Canada, it's 15 years. In New Zealand, it's 14 years. In the United States of America, it's in the US, I think it's 75 years. Yes. In the United States of America, they keep biometric data for a whopping 75 years. So 80, 75 years, we are the lower end of the spectrum with 20 years. So I don't think by any stretch it can be said that we are being disproportionate in how we strike the right balance between the protection of our citizenry and the safeguarding of their rights, their liberties, and on the other hand, those who run afoul of the law.
The bill, if successful, will see amendments made to the Jury Act, the Dangerous Drugs Act, the Indictable Offences Preliminary Inquiry Act, the Young Offenders Detention Act, and the Police Service Act. As debate continues on the bill, it is expected to be moved soon to the committee stage before being read a third time and passed. The bill, as introduced, requires a special 3/5 majority in order to be passed. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
In other news, the Caribbean region stands to benefit from increased development and economic gains with the introduction of new advances in technology. This comes from the Prime Minister of Grenada, Dr. the Honourable Keith Mitchell, who believes that the University of the West Indies must be the vehicle to bring about this reality in the years to come. Speaking at the opening ceremony of a public lecture series on nanoscience and nanotechnology, Dr. Mitchell noted that heavy focus in these two areas reflect the reality of our time and also sends the message that the region will not be left behind.
What is nanoscience and nanotechnology, and how does this technology affect us humans? Well, nanotechnology is the manipulation of matter on an atomic, molecular and supramolecular scale. To understand this better, think of how a house is built and designed for a family to live in. Now think of this same house being built in the same way, except on a small scale that permits us to complete thousands of them on the edge of a pin, of course minus the family. While nanoscience is a study of the performance of ultra-small structures, materials and devices, also the study of manipulating materials on an atomic or molecular scale, basically, it is the science behind making things which only a microscope could help us perceive. Now that that's out of the way, this is what the Grenadian Prime Minister, Dr. the Honourable Keith Mitchell, has to say about the technology. Dr. Mitchell has been an avid campaigner for the implementation and use of technology in the region. Delivering the feature address at the opening ceremony of a public lecture series on nanoscience and nanotechnology at the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus, Dr. Mitchell noted that UWI is the premier institution to transform the region and usher it into the age of technology. The Grenadian Prime Minister said he was excited about this prospect of education, however stated that this was not the case a few years ago.
In 1995, when I became Prime Minister, and I attended the first CARICOM Heads of Government in Jamaica. On the agenda was not one single item on discussion on science and technology. And of course, as an incoming Prime Minister, I was asked to do one of the key addresses at the opening ceremony. And I scolded my colleagues about what I saw was a serious deficiency in our agenda, recognizing that without this, we will be, in fact, marginalizing our societies in the years to come.
Dr. Mitchell says the region is facing its greatest economic challenge and unemployment is very high, but assured we can weather the storm if we innovate and implement the use of technology in the various economic sectors.
But we are very confident that with the decisions that we have taken, we can weather the storm and emerge as stronger economies. And particularly, if we use the tool of science and technology, we will make it.
The Grenadian Prime Minister reiterates that science and technology has a major role to play in developing countries of the region.
My friends, science and technology and innovation have a major role to play as effective tools, not only in food production and energy, but also in critical areas such as education, health, climate change, mitigation, and adaptation.
The opening of the public lecture series and international symposium on nanoscience and nanotechnology was held at the Dagger Auditorium at the UWI St. Augustine campus. Among the distinguished professors speaking was Professor Clement Sankat, Pro-Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal at UWI St. Augustine. Felicia Wilson-Mon, News 4.
News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Primary school children between the ages of 6 and 9 had the opportunity to learn valuable information and communication technology skills as part of a pilot program dubbed Techno Kids, Imagine the Future 2014. The program is an initiative of the Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training and is being conducted at the National Energy Skills Centres across the country.
At that convention,
Test Minister Fazal Karim announced his plans for Techno Kids 2015 at the official opening of Microsoft Trinidad and Tobago's MTT offices.
that next year, 2015, we are going to have a very large convention. It is going to be called the 2015 Techno Kids Convention and Award Ceremony. It will be called the 2015 Techno Kids Convention and Awards Ceremony. And I propose to invite children from the region so that we'll have an international convention.
Minister Karim said the timing was perfect as Youth Spark and Techno Kids would complement each other nicely in the ICT development of TNT's youth.
At that convention, those of you who are here today and those who were here last year And those who we are going to invite for next year will be able to participate in the various competitions for cash prizes for your schools and for yourselves, and also to get technology prizes. And we are going to award you with your various awards, your certificates, and your prizes in areas of animation, in areas of creation, in areas of new education. And all of those are going to be important for you.
The Techno Kids program is one which he says was conceptualized by his colleagues at the NESC National Energy Skills Center and YTEP Youth Training and Employment Partnership Program and Microsoft. He said students will be exposed to technology through the desktop computer, the laptop, the iPad, and other devices.
When you go to your secondary school, after you write your SCA exam, you'll be very literate, computer literate, and very technologically savvy when you get your laptops from the Ministry of Education, courtesy the Honorable Prime Minister, Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, and the government and people of Trinidad and Tobago.
He says there is a strong desire to build the capacity of our young people to move our society to one which creates jobs. According to the Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, the program will empower young people to develop their full potential by connecting them with greater opportunities for education, employment, and entrepreneurship. It will also provide access to software solutions such as Microsoft Office 365, its cloud-based productivity solution at academic institutions in Trinidad and Tobago, and provide training for educators and students on the use of solutions. The agreement also includes support for other Microsoft programs that foster local innovations such as DreamSpark, BizSpark, and Imagine Cup, among others, which help young students and entrepreneurs gain access to technology to start a business and solve some of the world's biggest challenges, thus giving them an opportunity to make a difference in society and prepare themselves for the workforce. The program will be deployed through NESC training centers across Trinidad and Tobago. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
The Member of Parliament for La Hoqueta, Talparo, had a full day of activities. He began by distributing self-help checks at his constituency office and later visited a youth camp at a church within his constituency.
13 residents of Brazil in the La Hoqueta Talparo constituency have benefited from self-help grants on the advice of their Member of Parliament, the Honourable Jairam Simangal. The checks were disbursed as state grants and are expected to assist the residents with house repairs and other much-needed upgrades which will impact their lives and those of their families.
Every single year we give out self-help grants to persons who are in need of, not deserving of, but in need of, and that's a big difference. This is what we are about. We are about delivering, we are about giving to you, and we are about making sure that we make the lives of our people a little more comfortable, so that your children will benefit, your grandchildren will benefit, and in a wider community will also benefit, and the constituency and by and large we will have a better developed Trinidad and Tobago.
The chairman of the Commission for Self-Help spoke of the joy he receives from assisting citizens who are in need. He asked that the residents use the grant to better their lives.
Make full use of the grant we are giving you today. It's a maximum of $15,000. It might not mean much to you, but it will go a long way in providing some level of comfort to you and your family. So be assured that this government is delivering to the people.
The recipients thanked the Minister and the Commission for Self-Help for their intervention and assistance.
I'm feeling so happy. I'm feeling the cry.
Thank you to the Minister, everybody who was here to help us. My family and I will be very grateful.
I'm very grateful for what Mr. Jairam has done in this community. He's serving well. He's a generous man, and from the first day I met him, I got so close to him that I even performed a calypso for him, and he was so grateful about it. He invited me to a Queen Show at the center to do a performance for them. He brought his wife along, everybody, and he was so grateful. He said, "You are a great entertainer in our community. Keep it up."
Well, I'd like to say I really appreciate it, and thanks a lot.
I want to say thanks to you, Mr. Minister, and the Self-Help Commission personnel, amen, for this grant. I know that it will take me a long way to continue what I have already started, amen. I really appreciate this very much. Thank you.
Following the distribution of the self-help checks, the Honourable Member of Parliament took some time to visit a youth camp which his office sponsored at the La Hoquita Gospel Foundation Church.
I want to thank the Honourable Jairam Simangal, our MP for La Hoquita Talpara area, who has sponsored the camp. And we want to say thank you. Let's say thank you to him by a round of applause. All right, great. What happened? Everything that you all had this week was sponsored by him. So we say hats off to you, Minister. We really appreciate it and thank you very much.
Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. The tremendous form of Michelle Lee Ahi has given Trinidad and Tobago a realistic chance of capturing the women's sprint double at the upcoming Commonwealth Games, which is just 7 days away. But the hopes of a nation were jolted on Tuesday when Ahi pulled up after winning the 200 meters at the International Athletics meeting. Fortunately, the injury is not serious and the sprinter assures that she will be in Glasgow for the Games. Here's a look at that 200-meter race in Switzerland.
Ahi in 2. So Trosser on the inside in 1. Ahi from Trinidad and Tobago in 2. Kambunji, the Swiss, goes in 3. Campbell Brown for Jamaica in 4. Duncan 5. Strachan 6. McLaughlin 7. Tiffany Townsend from the United States of America goes in lane 8. Well, no such problems in the women's 200 metres, and Veronica Campbell-Brown there looking to run a decent bend, and Veronica Campbell-Brown is coming off the bend really well. Veronica Campbell-Brown going well, also going well is McLaughlin, but Campbell-Brown going well. Ahi coming through though in lane 2. Ahi has already won the 100. Can she make it a double? Veronica Campbell-Brown fading fast. Ahi makes it a 1-2 double, 22.75, and she limps over the line. That is not good news for the athlete from Trinidad and Tobago. She's won the race, but I wonder at what cost, John Rawling.
Well, that is not something you want to see. It looks like a hamstring problem. And of course, she would be hoping for the sprint double in the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. She's set to be one of the stars of this summer's Global Championship. Anthony Strachan of the Bahamas came through in second place with Tiffany Townsend third. But let's watch again. It was in the closing stages. She'd run a good bend. Campbell Brown had got out superbly around the bend. Ahi, though, you see here, she's right up alongside, maybe with a slight advantage, and she's powering away. Now, where does the problem come? Still going well there, just starting to feel it now. She's feeling it. That's where she ties up and grimaces about 10-15 metres from the line, and watch, that's where it's hurting. Now she knows there's something wrong across the line, but let's hope as she clasps that left hamstring, let's hope that that's a star athlete who has got a problem which is going to be treatable, and that she's still going to be okay to be in Glasgow, because that would be a crying shame.
Yes, it would on this form. She's an absolute talent and a really flamboyant character on the circuit.
Well, as we move away from sports and wrap up the newscast, many of Tobago's resorts and communities are located near the coast. And while this is good for tourism, commercial marine activities and relaxing after a hard day's work, it can pose some serious risk during the rainy season. Now, these areas are subjected to stronger winds as well as storm and tide surges. This is why the Meteorological Service in Tobago is seeking to have amateur weather observers near the coastline. Natoya Johnson has more in this report.
To celebrate World Meteorological Day 2014, the Meteorological Service, the Tobago Emergency Management Agency TEMA, and the Ministry of Tobago Development came together to host a series of activities that highlighted the role these agencies play in our day-to-day lives and to also focus on a new initiative for disaster preparedness.
We are looking for voluntary weather observers. How this will help the Met Office? First, we'll do a bit of training for people who want to become voluntary weather observers. We'll do that training, and throughout the island we'll have people who had some sort of training who, whenever there's an event pending or occurring, we can ask for information to help us, to guide us.
It is about teamwork. A storm reported in the north from the seaside community of Charlottesville by a trained weather observer could provide the Met Service with valuable information about what emergency responses might be required as a result of the rainfall. In turn, the Met Service will alert TEMA to advise citizens of potential hazards.
It's important that response capacity be where it ought to be. And therefore, it is my responsibility to ensure that even if we speak to the issues that directly relates to you and your responsibility, we have ours as an agency that is responsible for coordinating a network of agencies and individuals, whereby we direct your efforts towards the maximum preservation of life and the protection of property during times of disasters. Only last year, September, we introduced what is called a TEMA Virtual Vision. This is one of the major platforms in information management using a technology called crowdsourcing that TEMA have brought to the table. We are the first in the English-speaking Caribbean to do such, whereby we have engaged with crowdsourcing technology and created an app.
The agencies are also getting students involved through interactive learning sessions.
In the upcoming wet season, we are forecasting a near average wet season for Trinidad and a slightly above average for us here in Tobago. All right, now different areas of the country would receive different amounts of rainfall. So we're expecting more rainfall in the eastern and northern parts of Trinidad, right? But less on the western coast. And for the whole area of Tobago, more than average, or just slightly above average for the whole year.
But are the students paying attention to all that information, like the number of named storms expected this year?
Those who say 6, put up your hand. All right, those who say 2, put up your hand. And those who said 4, put up your hand. All right, well, 4 is actually correct. So I have 2 small prizes for you two at the front at the end of it. But something else you should also remember, right? It only takes one storm, right? It only takes one storm to destroy everything.
Reporting from Tobago, Natoya Johnson, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. Now you can view a repeat of our newscast weekdays at 6 a.m. And feel free to visit our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/RTV4. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you for joining us.